welcome to Create Expectations. I'm Tom Horse Kennedy, joined by Dan Try Again Lozier, Matt West Coast Carvalho, and Chris Maverick Palumbo.
Goose. I'm more a goose.
I thought it was maybe Iceman, but anyway. We are the Groovy Guys. This is episode 2 of the 7 Deadly Sins Challenge, and today we are talking about pride. How does it work? If you haven't heard the first episode, go back and listen to that. Each episode features one sin as the central theme. Each Groovy Guy presents a record from their collection, and at the end of the episode, we vote. And we are one step closer to locking in the 7 albums that represent the 7 deadly sins. In the first episode, we talked about Metallica's Master of Puppets, Kiss, Destroyer, Notorious B.I.G., Life After Death, and Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire, and coming out on top was Kiss, Destroyer. It made perfect sense.
Woohoo.
I think we all knew.
I was surprised, though, because you guys had really good explanations. I thought mine was a little too on the nose.
But that's perfect for Greek.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So Dan is running top of the leaderboard with one album out of 7.
Bing, bang.
No pressure.
All eyes on me. I got tied for first at the last challenge.
Oh, let's see what you did there. In this episode, great segue, Dan. We're talking about the Top Gun soundtrack. Andy Shauf, Neon Skyline, Roger Waters, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, and Tupac, All Eyes on Me. Chris, let's start with Top Gun.
I
Let's do it.
I am so excited that I finally get to talk about this album.
This feels like a prize or the pride of your collection at times when you talk about it.
It's
More so than the Bun Bun record.
no kidding. This is. I used to joke because I'd put this on like on drinking nights, like Friday nights. I'd throw this on and I would just say, "Don't worry, like we'll flip it over to side B and it's just Highway to the Danger Zone like 6 different times."
For real?
No, it's not. No, but that's the joke, right? But that was it. No, I used to just keep going back over and just putting Highway to the Danger Zone like back on. And I'm like, no, it's just the soundtrack. Just let it be, right? So when we were talking Pride, I was like, there's no other album in my collection that screams Pride than...
Because it's the pride of your collection?
No, because this screams pride of America.
Yes, it does.
And nothing is more proud of America than America and America's military machine.
Top Gun honestly feels like it was made as a propaganda
It's a
movie.
recruitment video.
Exactly.
It is. No, it's 100%. That's the reason they made it.
Great movie. But.
Oh, it's spectacular. The soundtrack, spectacular. To the point where it won awards. Like, best original song.
Factory.
Won awards.
Yeah, the best original song by Berlin won "Take My Breath Away." Won Academy Award for best original song.
No shit. That is easily
so
the
good.
best song on the album. I had no idea it was written for Top Gun.
And it won a Golden Globe.
No way.
This album was number 1 in the charts for 5 weeks.
No way.
5 weeks. Yeah, 5 non-consecutive weeks, but 5 weeks altogether.
You're blowing me away by that. I had no clue.
No, this album, the whole thing screams pride, and like you said,
it does.
it's all for the military. So some interesting facts. After this movie came out, recruitment numbers for the Air Force and the Navy jumped by 20,000 people.
Wow.
It's been quoted that in like the early 2000s, right after Black Hawk Down, because the same director directed this as did Black Hawk Down, they said, we don't need another Black Hawk Down.
Ridley Scott or Tony Scott?
Ridley Scott did Black Hawk Down.
But this is, producer. Sorry, not director,
I see,
producer.
okay.
Jerry Bruckheimer.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah.
Big time producer.
Said after Black Hawk Down, they needed another Top Gun because military numbers were shrinking.
Oh, wow.
So they needed Top Gun 2 to help boost those numbers.
They needed a glossy propaganda to hide the reality of war.
Yes.
Because people watched Black Hawk Down, they were like, oh, that's what happens?
Yes.
It was like, oh, that's
I want to
dark.
do the Top Gun one.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to have fun. I want to call you. Yeah, I want to play volleyball.
So the quote from an article I read by Dr. Parker, who was, this is a written, like
Like a scholarly journal.
A scholarly journal. It's been a little while since university, but a scholarly journal. He said this movie solidified the image of the military as fast-paced, fast-planed. You get the girls and cool music. And I don't know if there's anything more America and pride and powerful of your country than that.
Wow.
And
Chris
Tom
is
Cruise
coming out swinging.
Yeah, that's a good pride pick. I'm not
And
gonna lie. I mean,
Tom
I feel like
Cruise's
I knew
face-
that was you're going to be
Tom
your...
Cruise's face.
Oh.
He says, "Go
Chris
for
Chris
it."
is wearing a Tom
He's
Cruise
wearing a
t-shirt
Tom
that says...
Cruise- hang on.
That
Just
says...
go for it.
Hold this.
Says go for it.
Tom Cruise says, "Go for it."
Hold this. We're contenting as we're contenting.
And I believe, Chris, you probably made that shirt.
My sister did.
Your sister made it. Okay. For those who don't know, the Palumbo family has just an absolute affinity for making t-shirts.
Yeah.
Since the moment I met Chris,
Yeah,
this guy was wearing a Darcy Tucker t-shirt he made himself.
I mean, we
Then he
made.
went to get
Autographed by
signed by Darcy Tucker.
I mean, we
Yeah.
made Chad's t-shirts and then got them
Exactly,
signed by
yeah,
the band.
exactly.
Yeah, it's one of what
It's a signature Palumbo move.
Chris,
Yeah.
I gotta say, this album, like, you recognize the songs that are on it.
Oh, yeah.
But as you listen to the album itself, it's unbelievable how well all the songs fit together. They all sound like they're made from by the same person.
And how like it's just a beast of a soundtrack. There's a reason it's the best-selling soundtrack of what year? 1986.
Yep.
Dude, and I still can't get over the fact that
And
Take
one
My
of the
Breath
best
Away.
of all time.
I can't get over the fact that Take My Breath Away is one of the greatest soundtrack songs.
Yeah.
And it was made for Top Gun.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And
that
it's-
song's a hit.
It's actually like it's not even like it's a soundtrack. It's like the bangingest playlist of the 80s.
It is.
really is.
Oh, it screams. Yeah. Cheap Trick, right? Loverboy, Berlin, Kenny Loggins, obviously. Miami
I'm
Sound
assuming
Machine.
Danger Zone was written for the movie too?
Yep.
It must
It
have
must
been,
have
right?
been,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they approached Brian Adams, not Ryan Adams.
shit.
Brian Adams.
Brian?
Brian.
Right.
Brian.
Not Ryan.
Not Ryan. Brian.
Brian.
Brian Adams.
The Canadian one or the American one?
The Canadian
Okay.
one.
Brian.
Are they?
Brian.
Maybe
With
they're
a
both
B.
Canadian? I don't know.
I know. Sorry, that's an ongoing joke. Brian Adams, and he said he refused because it glorified war, and he didn't want to be work linked to the atrocities that occur in those scenarios. So then they went to Kenny Loggins.
And Kenny was like, "Fuck yeah, give me money."
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he went, "Fuck yeah, pride in America."
Yeah, he was
Brian
like,
Adams is Canadian,
"America."
right? He's not
fuck
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, look up there with the best. Right,
Wow.
right there on
It is
the
up there with the best. There you go. It
So
says
your
it.
pride approach was pride of America, pride of their military industrial complex,
pride. The songs are all
Yeah.
about like pride,
Yeah.
getting the girl right out there.
machismo,
Yeah,
pride
yeah.
pride of the male ego.
Yeah.
Listen
Yeah.
to the solo, the theme
Pride
song.
of their penis envy that you can
The
clearly
solo-
pick up on in the,
The
movie.
solo
No,
is
yeah.
a throbbing penis.
It is
Yeah.
that. That whole song, the Top Gun theme is just one long proud that you can do notes on a guitar. It's the whole album just screams pride.
How is it? This is going to blow your minds. How's this for a like totally left field fact that links to a band we've talked about before? I don't think we've featured them before, but I've talked about the Australian punk band Radio Birdman.
Yes.
Some OG punks and Denez Tech, who's in the band, still produces music. He is from Detroit. He's originally from the Detroit scene. He is the inspiration for the name, not the character, Iceman.
Oh, really?
Really?
He was a
Wow.
Navy pilot, and the film, the screenwriters or whatever, when they were researching it, spent time with his squadron and his call sign, Dennis Tech from Radio Birdman, his call sign is Iceman.
Wow.
That's sweet.
cool.
Wow.
Just
One
a
of the
little-
biggest punks out of Australia.
Just
Yeah.
a little side fact.
Oh, that's fun. And yeah, the nicknames, the volleyball scene.
And that's all. Like he's still,
Pride.
if he's hanging with, I heard it on a podcast. If he's still hanging with his old Navy buddies, he's Iceman. Like the call sign stays for life.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. How could you lose Iceman?
I know,
That's
it's
a
cool, right?
It's a sweet, yeah.
But I don't think he's as much of a dick as Val Kilmer was in the movie.
But what?
Well, actually,
Wow,
I feel
he
like
cut-
Maverick was the bigger dick
Yeah,
in the
Maverick.
movie.
Can we all agree Maverick was the dick?
Yeah,
He
Maverick
was
was
an
the
asshole.
They're all kind
Yeah.
of dicks.
They are. Well, that's the point. The whole point of the movie is set your ego aside or you
No,
die.
they're all, honestly they're all pieces of shit. I mean, the scene is when you have this like PhD female doctor
Yeah.
who comes in to talk about aerophysics.
Yeah.
And then they're all like
to go fast.
nah, you're wrong. And it's like, what do you mean I'm wrong? This
is science.
Literally my job. And they're all dismissing her. None of them respect her for who she is. The movie, in
Peak
hindsight,
80s. I mean, it's peak
just
80s.
pure trash, right?
It's pure pride in something you know very little about, and you're trained to do it, and you're just proud of it, whether you're right or wrong.
It's exactly what the 80s was like.
Yes.
Like it's a perfect 80s movie, perfect 80s soundtrack.
Yes.
Perfect 80s mentality.
Now, the only thing I'm a little hung up on is that, you're using pride for the movie.
Oh.
Well, I'm using Pride in America.
Pride in America.
So Pride in all of these link to the movie, like the Highway to the Danger Zone, like Loverboy. It's all linked back to the idea.
I'll allow it.
I'm cool with it. You gave a good explanation.
Yeah, it's all linked back to the idea that yes, in the movie, without this soundtrack, I don't think the movie would be as powerful.
The soundtrack is like as iconic as the movie itself. Yeah.
There's a couple of interesting pressings that I found.
I was like, well, I'm curious the wax facts.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot. There's a lot of variants, but there's a Japanese with an OG86.
Nice.
That would be one I think would, if you want a nice copy for your collection.
Chris, you got to
I gotta get that.
Get the Japanese copy of
Campbell
an
Horror.
American military film.
And there's a picture disc from 2020.
I
Actually,
see.
quite recent.
Yeah, and I know they released one that's a longer version with like all the soundtrack, like all the songs on it. This just has like the big hits on it, right?
That's what we listen on the homework playlist.
Yeah.
It had like music that was playing in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it had all the. This is just the big,
Just what
like
you
the
would release as a soundtrack.
track.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So what's the track?
So I would do if you're listening to this and you want to feel proud in America. Then I'm going with just the guitar solos on the Top Gun
intro?
anthem.
Nice.
The full anthem.
I
Like,
knew you were going to pick that.
it's just the solo alone.
I
It's
love
just
how
like
it starts though. Like it's just it's a great song. Yeah.
the solo builds up. It doesn't need any more, and
Yeah.
then there's a ton more, and then it winds down and builds up, and it's just yeah. So there we go. That's my pick,
All right.
and
I'm proud of you.
I
guys.
was so excited to share this with you guys. I don't know if you felt the enthusiasm.
Oh,
It was real.
I think the
100%.
pride is because it's the pride
Yeah,
of his
the pride
collection.
of America and the pride of your collection.
Sit down, Sam Roberts.
All right,
There we go.
we're gonna take a little left field turn here and talk about Dan. Let's go to your pick, Andy
Wow,
Shauf.
this
Neon
is
Skyline.
drastically different.
I know. I'm very curious.
Okay, so in the pod, I've spoken about Andy Shauf many times.
Many times.
It's no secret that he's definitely one of my favorite artists right now. He's album of the year, my top 5 last year. If we had this podcast in 2020, this album would have easily been number 1. At the end of 2020,
Yeah.
I was in the 0.01% of listeners on Spotify for Andy Shauf.
You were binging him hard.
It was amazing. It's funny. This is another one of those things where Alina tries to introduce me to artists, and I'm just like, whatever. And then I find them, 2 years down the line. I'm like, have you heard of this guy?
She's like,
yes, I've been listening to him since 2015.
yeah.
Yeah, this album it's really amazing because it's about a bar called the Skyline in a neighborhood in Toronto called Parkdale, where, my wife Alina and I, we lived in Parkdale for 10 years and we used to go to the Skyline all the time. It's just this great little place. They serve really good food, have great beer on tap. And it's known to be a little bit of like a musician's hotspot where like a lot of people kind of congregate to. And when this album came out, I was just like, this is actually perfect. And so the reason why I picked Pride is because one, we have to recognize Andy as like his ability to write a story. He typically comes up with these concepts for albums. Like the album before that is called The Party. It's literally 10 songs, each from a different perspective of someone at the party. His album Norm that just got released is a story about this guy Norm who has this weird obsession and these weird kind of psychopathic tendencies. The Neon Skyline is literally about a guy and one night at the Skyline bar. And the reason why I picked it for Pride is because if you really dive into the lyrics of the album, it's really quite obvious that the main character of the album is just a little bit too proud to recognize his failures as a person and the reasons why he broke up with this girl.
And to reconcile his love.
And
right?
to reconcile his
Yeah.
love. And he can never get over this pride, which kind of prevents him from having this relationship with this girl who obviously is still really good friends with all of his friends.
Yes.
Right? So the album starts off, he goes to meet his buddy Charlie at the bar. They're hanging out. All of a sudden, he starts thinking about all these reasons why he broke up with this girl.
Judy.
He gets back into the conversation with his buddy Charlie. Another friend shows up. And then Judy, walks in the door and like completely just ignores the character. And you can just hear in his head, like, I just want her to notice me being there. And all of a sudden, it's like finally they get to talking and he fumbles on his words. He doesn't even know what to say. He's clearly still in love with her, but he's too proud to say anything about it and continues to let her walk into his life. And he clearly is suffering about it until right at the end where he talks about like it's what sounds like the eventual reason why they broke up. And then in the last song where it's like then all of a sudden makes this realization where he wishes he could have changed for her, but he just never did because he's just too proud to change for her.
Okay,
He's too proud in who he is. Like he talks about the first line of the song is like, he thinks about going to the Skyline and you can tell he's not living a great life. Like he opens up the fridge, he just decides to put butter on bread.
That's right.
Before he goes to the bar, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what is this guy living for?
Yeah.
He's clearly in torment and he's clearly still, tormenting himself about this girl that was in his life. He just can't get over it. So that was why I picked it for Pride.
Okay.
Then it's a great pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
And
pick.
well, it's a great pick regardless because I've said this, I don't know how many times I've said today, I can't stop listening to this album.
Yeah. It's
It
good.
is so good.
And
It's very different.
It's
too,
very
right?
different, but you have to listen to it like front to back, actively listening. You don't have to, like you can just listen to the songs, but it's so damn good as a concept album.
a full story.
But your first listen has to be through, and then you
to
can
appreciate it.
Yeah,
but
because that's
had,
what I did, and then I went back, and now I can just listen to
Yeah.
any song, but I know where it fits into the lineup, right?
Totally.
And that
I've
was
had
really
the hook
important.
stuck in my head all week. It's just he's such a good songwriter.
I've had the part where he goes to reach for her hand, and she like pulls away because they're walking, right? And
there's a line where it's like
I can't. Yeah.
she pulls on the sleeve of my coat and says, I miss this, and says, yeah, I know I miss you too. And she says, no, actually, I was just talking about your coat.
Yeah.
Go. Yes.
That's in the same, which opens the somewhere between drunkenness and chivalry. I
Yes.
love that line.
Yeah, and then he goes for her hand or something, and then she pulls away, and she's like, "No, I'm not ready for the or something."
That's what it was. It's like
Yeah.
she goes to pull, like I think she goes for my hand, but she just goes to pull on the sleeve of my coat.
To say,
That's it.
I missed
It
this.
says, I miss
The
this.
coat.
And it's like, oh, I know I miss this too. No, I was actually just talking about your coat.
Yeah,
but it's also
oh.
like how amazing his writing style is to just fit that candor into a song.
It is. It's not. It's almost like not listening to a song. It's almost like watching a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
In
painting
your
pictures.
head.
I was painting
Yeah.
pictures in my head.
It's like you're reading a book that has a soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, he's a great writer. He's I noted in my notes that he's on Anti Records, which is the same label as Tom Waits,
Yeah,
which
big
makes
singer-songwriter.
makes
That
perfect
makes
sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
Right,
Very
big
cool.
singer songwriter. Dan, there's a couple of neat wax facts, and
Yeah, let's hear this.
yeah. So this one, you might be looking for this one. There is a limited edition pressing of this record that comes with a 7-inch single featuring 2 B-sides that he decided not to put on the album
Yes, and I'm a big fan of those songs.
that continue the story.
That's right.
Okay, so you were familiar with that.
Both of those songs are snippets of their relationship together before they break up.
Right. So that makes sense
cool.
why it doesn't
Yeah.
fit in
Exactly.
in the
doesn't
album.
fit in the story of, because apparently when he was writing this album, he had written 30 songs
Wow.
about this character and this
Jeez.
relationship. And then those 2 songs were 2 songs that never made the album.
because
I'm
they were
assuming he's
before
like,
the story.
yeah, it was like, let me put this story together. But keep in mind, like the album does have snippets of their
Looking
before
back,
time.
yeah.
But those 2 songs are about like happy times in their relationship, about like, The one, it's actually probably my favorite song from that whole body of work. It was about them going to a bar every Wednesday and buying a lottery ticket. And he was saying, like, I forget what the line is exactly off the top of my head, but it's like win or lose. My favorite part about this isn't about the potential of winning $1 million. It's about going to the bar with you and looking at the numbers and losing every time. That was his favorite part about it.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
And then, but that's not even that's not even the most sought after album out there. The most sought after album out there is the one you left on the shelf, so to speak, which is the copy that is signed by the artist that was auctioned off by the Skyline.
By the Skyline.
And you were in the bid.
I was in the bid, and I was so ready. I mean, I had my max bid at about $220 for this thing.
Yeah.
Which, you know, $220 for a sought-after record is not typically high, but for like a niche record like this, it's a lot of money for it. And it ended up going up for, I think, $270 or $280. And I had the highest bid for hours.
Until
and I was updating the Groovy Guys chat every minute as it kept going higher and higher. And then the last minute, like the last 10 seconds, it was bid. Yeah. And someone finally took it.
Yeah, they swooped in.
Yeah.
Producer Matt, you're awful quiet over there. What?
I'm just taking it in, honestly.
What did you think of this album?
I'm right there with you guys. I share the same consensus. I don't really have too much to add other than it kind of reminded me of 500 Days of Summer.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean both characters are honestly
interesting
in that same place, right?
Yeah.
Where they're just constantly reminiscing and constantly they can't get over their own ego and their own pride in the situation, and they just remain heartbroken because of it.
There's that one song where it's the line about putting the kid's picture on the fridge. That's just like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah,
that song, man. Living Room.
Yeah, Living Room. Yeah,
it's about a woman's realization. She comes into the bar and they ask her how her day goes, and she basically says, "I had the weirdest moment back when I was a kid. When my dad came home from work, I gave him a picture that I made for him, and he brushed it off like it was nothing. And today, my son came home from school, and he had drawn a picture. I should have hung it on the fridge for him."
Yeah.
How hard is it to give a shit?
To give a shit, yeah.
Right? And she had this like, wow, my life has just come full circle. My dad was just busy and he just didn't have time for me.
That destroyed me because earlier in the week, Veda had drawn pictures and I brought them in the car. But I just, like, you just take them and you throw all the stuff in the car.
Now they're all on your fridge, right?
No,
right, Chris?
No, they're all on the floor of the car still. And then she gets in and
put those pictures on the fridge.
She'll never forget that moment. Like
wet shoes, and they're all ruined, you know. And we try, but I listened to that and I was like, I literally did that today. Like, oh God, yeah, that was a dagger.
Put him on the fridge, please.
But again, like it goes to show how good he is at painting a picture.
Yes.
And the last line of the song is, you know, Claire walked away and Charlie looked at me with wide eyes as if we had accidentally walked into a stranger's living room. And when he's telling the story in the song, it's like you really feel like you're in that living room watching her give a picture to her dad and watching her son give a picture to her.
Yeah, you're like a fly on the wall.
You are literally in the living room.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you feel for the whole album. It's like you're a patron in the Skyline.
You're in the bar and you're following.
That's how I pictured it.
Oh man, it's so good. Yeah. Great pick, Dan. What's the track?
For me, my favorite song on the album is Fire Truck. I think it's just that for me, it's like he's gone through the bar and he's seen her again. He had no idea she was back in town. They go out to another bar and the last line of Try Again was, we tilt our head backs and take our shot as we say goodnight. And then what I imagine is the song Fire Truck is finally like, no, like our relationship wasn't great. I'm seeing her brush me off and I'm seeing her talking to this other guy. I'm clearly jealous. I need to move on from this. And the memory of that last fight where she was she came home at 3 a.m. and never told me. She made a big deal out of this, which shouldn't have been a big deal. You know, I need to change. I need to be the changer in this and just move on and get out of here. And just that melancholy and that vibe of Fire Truck, I think, is just such a beautiful song.
All right.
Great pick.
Okay. Good.
Great pick.
Nice.
Yep. Good justification there.
Let's talk about maybe a good pick, but a really shit album. And that is Roger Waters. The pros and cons of hitchhiking.
Why did you make us listen to
I'm
this?
so sorry. I did it to make a point.
Did you?
That
it was missed on me.
That is.
I can't tell you how much I hated this.
This was a piece of shit.
I hate this
Yeah.
album
Like,
too.
it was
Actually,
so
Like,
bad.
I
Why do
just
you have this in your
hate it.
collection then?
I hadn't ever listened to any Roger Waters solo, and I grabbed it, and I regret it.
No, before
I
we get-
haven't listened to any since.
Do you know what Rolling Stones rated this?
Oh,
One
if it-
star out of 5.
Oh,
Did they?
God.
That's
Wow,
insane. What
that's
did
actually
What did
unsurprising.
Pitchfork say? Pitchfork
Okay.
probably loved it.
They
didn't even
probably loved it. Yeah.
Actually, Chris,
9.9.
I'm surprised you didn't like this because I thought everyone will hate it, and maybe Chris will just say he
No,
likes it.
the song titles alone.
They're times.
They're just time
'Cause it's-
signatures. Yeah.
Because Roger Waters' pride and hubris and ego can't allow him to not have an overly complicated concept for his first solo work after leaving Pink Floyd, because that would be embarrassing to him and his ego. So this is why this is my pick. He left Pink Floyd in 1985 after this had been released, but like the writing was on the wall. They weren't working well together. He released this as a solo work, and his ego, like pride becomes before a fall. It's a vanity project.
Yes.
That pride is vanity, and this tanked. It was not received well. It was not received well by the critics. In terms of how it was released, he lost £400,000 on the tour for this album. They had to change venues because he wasn't selling enough tickets. They had to cancel shows.
Oh, God, that's embarrassing.
Talk about pride,
Yeah.
right?
Seriously.
He was too proud to realize that this was hot garbage. Despite the fact that, what's really surprising? Despite the fact that the guitars on this album are Eric Clapton.
Are you
No
serious?
shit.
No way.
What the hell was he thinking
What was
going
Cla-
into the studio for Roger Waters?
Oh,
Right?
God.
Guys, this is pride. This is vanity. This is
Oh my
hubris.
God.
This is ego. And those are all synonyms
The
for
fact
Roger
that he wanted
Waters.
to take this on tour too.
Good. Hey.
man.
But the thing about this is, as a band, right? Like, you need to balance. Like, Roger Waters brought great concepts. It was between this album and The Wall as to what Pink Floyd released when they went into the studio for that concept.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait, really?
These were the two concepts he brought, like unformed, like just
Yes,
one's
yeah,
this,
yeah.
one's this.
Yeah.
And they picked The Wall. But
Thank God.
But he needs the other members of Pink Floyd to rein him in and tell him when his ego's out of control and tell him when something's shit. And he didn't have those other band members in studio with him pulling him back. And he couldn't see how crap this was because he's too proud. He's too vain. That's
Wow.
Yep.
like, how could you release this and think that it was going to be good? Like,
No kidding.
If you don't listen to the album and you just you hear the concept, it's a fever dream between the hours of whatever the track titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4:30.
And it's a guy who's struggling with monogamy and family life and like where he's at in his life, right? As a concept, okay, that's interesting. It's not as interesting as The Wall. It's not as interesting as Dark Side of the Moon.
No.
There's really nothing else that needs to be said about it other than pride comes before a fall.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But even the times and then in brackets, like what he actually wants to call the songs.
No kidding.
It's like he's just trying to get it all in. It's so on the nose.
Like,
It's just, he's just laid it on way too
Arabs
thick.
with knives and West German skies.
yeah. And one that jumped out at me was 441, sexual revolution.
No, but it's like,
What are you trying? Like,
no, yeah. 441, Sexual Revolution, The Remains of Our Love, Go Fishing.
I was actually kind of excited.
Done Roman, done Karen, done living.
Has anyone ever suggested a pick that they genuinely hate? Like, has any of us ever before brought a pick to the challenge,
I don't know
to
if
an
we have.
episode
I think
so. I
that have
think it's
been
the
like,
first.
here's my pick, FYI, I hate it, but it's
no.
perfect for the topic.
So that's funny because I was going to go that direction too.
Really?
Right? Like go with something that is seen as so
On the nose.
so bad. Right? Like it's their pride ruined this.
But
But I'm glad you brought this because this is way better.
It's gross.
You could
But the difference, like say with the last one with Kiss, it's like you want it to be bad, but it's good.
Yeah.
And with this, it's just bad.
Like,
Yeah, it's bad.
I skipped a lot.
It's bad. I didn't even want to listen
I
to
didn't
it.
listen to the whole thing.
No, I
was
couldn't
like,
get through
why
it.
am- why do-
I couldn't get through it.
No, I got to like song 5 or 6. I'm like, I don't need to listen to the
No,
whole thing.
you know it's
here.
crap.
It's garbage.
I skipped to like go fishing because I was kind of excited. Like any song with fishing in it, you're like,
Do you know what? I should have actually, I should have
I-
set you guys up and pretended like I was really into this.
that would have been hilarious.
I'm glad that you didn't, to be honest with you. Like,
You would have that would have
I'm
canceled
not
me.
fucking coming.
to put in perspective how much I hated this,
and this is coming from Matt. Matt loves everything.
Yeah, exactly.
like, I was listening to this while doing work in the basement, and part of it involved power tools and chopping wood. I enjoyed listening to the power tools and cutting wood with a power saw
Oh my
over
God.
listening to this.
But it's more
my
melodic.
God.
But here's the thing. I actually felt bad because I was like, I gotta give an honest, I can't just plow through this or like half-ass it and not listen to the
I
whole
should have said
thing.
you guys don't have to listen to the whole thing.
No, I think
And-
you. No, it was
In fact,
important.
do
I thought you liked it. 'cause
Do
I
one
knew
of
you
you
were a
want
big
to
Pink
take it
Floyd guy.
home?
No.
No. I literally rewound replayed a couple songs just to say I gave
Like,
an
what am I
honest
missing?
listen
What am I
to say I
missing?
hated it.
What's Tom C in this?
That's what I was
I
thinking the
honestly
whole
thought
time.
you
Honestly,
liked it. I was like, I
the
know
whole
because I
time,
know
that's
you're
what
a
I was
big
thinking.
Floyd fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess he likes all their
Their
post.
But
Pink
I
Floyd
also
stuff.
don't like post Roger Waters Floyd. That's
They worked as a collective.
Yes,
that's
I agree.
They worked
the
as
thing.
a collective.
Like,
Anything
they work
after
so
that
well
is
together.
really mixed.
Yeah. There's 3 albums after he left. Maybe one of them I like a little bit, but not anything like.
There's some good
feel like
songs
that whole-
in that body of work, but
Well, and
not-
I think that's the point about the collective is like he brought the concept. So
Yeah.
so that's where you get those big kind of deep album to album. Like, because if you compare pros and cons of Hitchhiking to David Gilmour's first solo album, it's just a collection of songs. It's not a concept album.
Yes.
Like 2 different ways. It's a lot better too, which is another comparison. Anyway, I just would like to remind you before we move on, I would like to, and I'm not picking a song. But
Thank you.
Go fishing. Just go fishing because,
I would just like to remind you that we are not voting on whether we like the album or not. We're not voting on the
100%. It's about
concept.
the
No,
explanation.
we know
Matches
that.
the concept.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Still not gonna pick it, but
So hang on.
Just out of
Before
my
we
moral
move on-
compass.
complete
pride.
My
Just out of
moral
complete
compass.
pride.
No. Before we go on, can you talk about the album cover? Can you paint
It's
a
so
pic?
gross. Oh, do you know what we should start doing? Like the guy from that record store that describes album covers. He doesn't know the name. So picture a purple highway and there's a naked woman with a kid's backpack on.
That's a good explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
very
that's-
80s haircut, 80s
Yeah.
backpack.
And
yeah.
let's never talk about it again. Okay, let's talk
Hang on,
about
before we move on, just to show that this guy still hasn't fucking changed, he had the audacity to fucking put out a remake of Dark Side of the Moon, and it sounds just as bad as this.
It sucks so bad. It's you haven't heard it?
Whoa,
You didn't listen?
I did not listen.
Oh,
to that.
Matt and I went on a whole thing in the group chat, like yelling at each other about how shit it was.
Died.
Oh, dude.
He reissued it.
Yeah.
Was it late last year?
It was late last year. I think it was late summer.
It's
It is
not
so bad.
I don't even
it's like, listen to this.
understand it. It's like him talking over Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Do yourself a favor and go listen
Don't
once.
even listen
No,
to
no,
it.
do it listen once.
No.
Lausier?
Listen to it so you could just so you can understand.
Just to
how-
rage.
think I
Just to
blocked-
rage.
Just to rage.
I blocked it from
It
my memory.
sucks,
That
man.
was a hilarious
But
interaction.
again, it's his ego. It's
Yeah.
his pride. He just
Can't get out of his own way.
He can't get out of his own way. Great way to put it, man.
He claimed it was going to be better. Like he
well, it
openly
wasn't.
thought it was going to be.
Objectively, it was not.
I'm gonna make one of the greatest albums of all
actually
time
said that?
better.
Yeah, like he was talking it up.
When I had every fucking hand in trying to make that
By ruining it. Yeah.
40 years ago.
Oh, it was.
Get at it. Okay.
No. Yeah.
Don't get me going on this.
Hey, you guys should vote for it. Let's talk about Tupac, All Eyes on Me. It's a much better album.
Much better. Much better.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna chalk this up just out of the get go. It has got to be one of the best hip hop albums of all time and one of the best albums
Preach.
of all time. I would, especially in the hip hop genre, it's got to be in the top 5.
Yep.
Start to finish, all bangers. Starts off strong with Ambitions of a Rider. So good. Just to preface this a little bit too, the reason I picked this for Pride, this is a time when he was in jail. He was released on bail with the condition, was signing a new recording contract with Suge Knight and Interscope Records. It was a 3-album deal. this was considered to be 2 of the albums because it's a double album. So basically 66% of the contract's already honored. And yeah, it just came out, put out a massive, massive record.
Oh, yeah.
The hits off of this, it's unbelievable. Like 2 of America's Most Wanted, all-time classic. California Love, all-time classic.
Yeah.
How Do You
Huge.
Want It, all-time classic. Picture Me Rolling, all-time classic. Like I could keep going.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason it debuted number 1.
Exactly. And it's sold a bajillion records. Like it's a massive, massive album. It's hard to say whether this or Me Against the World is a better album. Like they're both so solid. And then obviously the record of all records that he ended up being a B-side on How Do You Want It, Hit 'Em Up. Big, like all-time, all-time diss record. This is obviously in the height of the East Coast, West Coast beef with Biggie and Puffy. And what's crazy about it is he actually sat on that album, on that record for a while. He originally recorded it and sat on it. He wanted to see how Biggie's album was going to do, his previous one. And originally he had some lyrics that were going to go out against Jay-Z as well, because he thought he was involved in his shooting back at the Hit Factory. That ended up not being the case. So anyways, sat on this album, actually went and re-recorded some stuff, and just the veracity this guy comes out with on that song alone, just his engineer said it is probably the most, like, I'm trying to think of how did he put this? Is the most ferocious he's ever seen him in the booth recording vocals.
right.
That's saying something.
He said he's
for
never
people.
seen him do that ever again. There is so much passion, and he made you feel everything on that record. But he actually, what I love about Tupac is even from his early work, he makes you feel everything he's talking about on his records. He just has so much passion. It oozes out of him. And that's part of the reason why I picked it for Pride, because he's a very proud guy, and you can feel it in all the records, even like the content that he's talking about on this album. It's, coming out of jail, being home, the lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. And it's got that huge West Coast vibe as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you know what what Rolling Stone said about it in their review?
Oh,
It's like a Cali thug life version of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Pure gangsta ego run amok over 2 CDs.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's accurate.
Yeah.
Definitely accurate.
Yeah. Okay.
Way to tie it into that other great record we talked about too.
God, shut up.
Yeah.
Don't ever mention that again, or I won't vote. I won't even put you on my voting list.
They're just
Matt,
the third spot is just empty.
do you have an OG of this?
No.
No.
I got the remastered version.
Do you know what? It's actually not too bad. You
What's
could
it going
probably
for?
pick it up for a couple $100.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad.
It sold a lot of records, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's also at the time where they weren't making a lot of pressings.
Yeah, this is kind of when things were
Yeah.
basically being pressed on CDs.
It's a double album 4 LP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I would say, Matt,
Okay.
for sure, like this is, I would say pretty much any Pac album is in the
Fits Pride.
greatest hip hop records of all time.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're all masterpieces.
Yeah.
This one in particular, though, is like, this kind of took the gangsta genre and put it on its head.
Oh,
like
yeah,
when California
big time.
Love came out,
huge.
Massive
like
record.
putting things like auto-tune and stuff in the mainstream, like it's a very much a groundbreaking album.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah. And
Massive
it really
album.
made it like a real pop sensation.
Yeah. And the video clip too, right?
Oh yeah, it's just
MTV.
everything
The video for it
about
was amazing.
Everything about it. It was like this got overly commercialized, right? And and it was the feud between East Coast and West Coast. Like this is as close to a hip hop masterpiece as you could make.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a brilliant album. It's very nostalgic too, honestly.
Yeah.
Big. I know you've got a reissue, Matt. The thing when I was researching Wax Facts, thing that really stood out to me, which I thought was strange, it's only been reissued 8 times in the last 30 years.
That I'm surprised.
Really?
Like quite limited when you think about how huge it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the track though, Matt?
For me, Picture Me Rolling. Absolutely love that song.
Okay. Yeah.
Great pick.
Right, yeah.
Shall we?
So-
vote?
Hang on.
We got to shout out the features too. The
Oh, yeah.
features on this album are insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got
Shout them out.
You've got Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Method Man, Redman, Nate Dogg, Corrupt, Geez, hang on.
Casey and
and
Joe.
JoJo, thank you.
Wow,
that blew
there
my
you
mind.
go. There you go.
I was listening and I was like, wait, is that? Wow, that's Casey and JoJo.
He's got the Outlaws all over this album as well.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Another song that I love off this, and I think it's one of his best records, is "I Ain't Mad at You." Such a good song. Part of the other reason, I forgot to mention this earlier, part of the other reason I picked this for Pride is, unfortunately, I think Pride was what led to his demise and his shooting.
I thought that was going to be
Yeah.
a big part of
And which is unfortunate. And I got two parts to this. So obviously we kind of know what happened with Orlando Anderson. They see him after the Tyson fight, and he had a previous beef with somebody else, and that was connected to Suge Knight and Pyru's gang. So they jump him, and then hours later, obviously they orchestrated the drive-by shooting. It's really unfortunate because, again, this guy was at the top of the hip hop game in his prime. He's gone way too soon, and unfortunately, you know, he always did say he kind of saw his death coming. He
prophesized it. Yeah.
And you can kind of even read it.
I mean, maybe you run with the wolves, right?
Yeah. And then so just going to read this out here. This is part of the Changes lyrics. That's the sound of my tool. You say it ain't cool, but my mama ain't raised no fool. As long as I stay black, I gotta stay strapped. I never get to lay back because I always gotta worry about the paybacks. Some buck that I roughed up way back, coming back after all these years. Rat tat 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 tat. That's the way it is. Oof. It didn't take years, but it didn't take years, but that's basically what he was talking about.
Seriously,
right? He's recognizing, his past is gonna come back and haunt him. Right? Like That's.
I mean, there was a couple hours between that incident and when he was shot.
That's wild.
That's nuts.
Okay, so that's Tupac, All Eyes on Me. There's another album we won't talk about, and there's Andy Shauf, Neon Skyline, and the Top Gun soundtrack. Gentlemen, let's vote.
Votes are in.
The votes are in. This is surprising.
I'm so excited.
Coming in at number 4, Andy Shauf, Neon Skyline.
Okay.
Which is my favorite album of all of them. But
I'm not going to lie to you. Mine too.
No, I got to say that your Pride
being
explanations.
it came in last.
I get where you're
came
going.
in last.
Yeah.
I get where you're going.
Yeah, but I can see that because the pride explanation was very much about the narrative. Whereas
I'm shocked.
You guys had very intense pride connections to the album.
Yeah.
Coming in at 3rd place, Roger Waters.
You're welcome, Tom.
Who's the proudest?
Going to be last.
Who was the proudest man of the bunch?
You're welcome.
I would disagree. I mean, it was the proudest out of the bunch. Tupac was also a proud motherfucker.
In a gross pride
No,
way.
I'm
right.
I voted I'll say I
as
voted
a sin.
as horrible. Like I put that first because it was so. His pride literally was so bad.
It was so gross.
So it was gross. Yeah.
Okay, number 2.
Oh.
Tupac.
Oh.
Eyes on Me with 7 votes.
7 votes.
Nice.
Okay.
Just nudged out by Top Gun with 8 votes.
Wow, Chris. No, like I want to say, like, Roger Waters and Tupac, 2 very proud performers.
Yes.
But it's in the Roger Waters album, like there was no sense of pride at all in the actual work.
No.
Whereas like the Tupac album is freaking 2 albums worth
It's
of
oozing.
just listening to this guy's pride.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
that was
good.
an easy number 1 pick for me.
It was number 2 for me.
Yeah.
I picked the Roger Waters because it was just like the pride was his downfall. It was the sin, like the sin of it.
I get it.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I thought Top Gun was going to take it no contest. So I'm surprised
It was tight.
close
That's
as it
great.
was.
Okay.
I was, honestly.
No, and I really liked your explanation on pride too, Chris. Thank you. That's why you took
Honestly,
a second.
And very, very impressed with the Andy Shauf explanation because I had no idea. I was like, I can't no idea. Is it like
how's he doing?
how is he doing?
Yeah,
I thought I thought you were gonna be like Pride on the Neon Skyline. I was like, is he just gonna be like?
I love this bar.
Yes, and I was like,
Give him some credit.
They have their
no, I would have loved that. I would have been like, yes. It's
their
like,
turkey club sandwich is unreal. They don't make it with just like strips of turkey. It's turkey salad.
oh, it's like a salad.
Right?
All
like
thrown
turkey
on a
salad.
bun.
And then with the bacon and the lettuce and tomato. It's
Gotcha.
phenomenal.
This episode is
Shout out
brought
to
to you
Skyline,
by
baby.
the Skyline. Okay, so we've got 2 sins on the board now.
Yep.
Pride is Top Gun. I think it's perfect.
It's pretty
Actually
good. It's
perfect.
really pretty good, yeah.
And Greed is Kiss Destroyer.
Love it.
2 on the board, 5 to go. All of July is the 7 Deadly Sins hashtag CratePod Vinyl Challenge for Pride. Send us in your pick for this challenge and like and subscribe. Until next time, keep digging and spinning.
The Groovy Guys are Tom Kennedy, Dan Lozier, Chris Palumbo, and Matt Carvalho. With your host, Tom Kennedy. Music by Dan Lozier, post-production by Matt, and album art by Chris.